All right, friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to all things Bannerlord related, and especially Advanced Battlefield Command and Tactics. In this episode, we are going to do tactics, of course, but we're going to do some infantry-only battles here. You guys have clamored for this kind of content, and so we're going to go ahead and pursue this. I will take on some challenges, all tier 3 and above units for both sides, and we're outnumbered here by about 20%. Now, this first battle, we're just going to set a baseline for this series. We'll probably end up doing 3 or 4 battles here today. We're going to focus on terrain for a couple of the battles, and then we will focus on broad open field tactics to give you guys the tips and tactics you need to have success if you're trying this. Now, perfectly honest, I don't know why you would run all infantry in Bannerlord unless you're playing one of the old mods where it's like the Romans and stuff like that, where infantry was the primary unit on the battlefield. Archers are king in Bannerlord, skirmishers are next, and then infantry and cavalry. I guess you could stick horse archers somewhere near the top as well. Basically, in Bannerlord, range is king. Now, this is very strange. Now, the AI literally looks like one of those bird murmurations where they all form like those amazing figures up in the sky. I don't know if I've ever seen this before, but the AI did say its plan was to go defensive, and that's what they're doing here. It doesn't actually look defensive. They just look like they're running, and the AI is having a hard time engaging. I thought they were going to engage there, and they just pulled back to their lines. So we'll see how long this goes on. Very strange behavior, though, by the AI. Now they got a cav charge coming in, and you devil and the AI here is surrounded. Obviously, it's going to go badly from there. Now, I will talk about different kingdoms and their infantry. I am a fan. Most people on the channel know that I'm a fan, particularly of the Battanians and the Aserai, which are highly unconventional picks for infantry. A lot of people throw shade at the Battanian infantry especially, and obviously the Aserai don't get a whole lot of love in general in Bannerlord. For whatever reason, when you go to Reddit or whatever it is, everybody prefers the Imperials, or they prefer the Sturgeon infantry or something like that. We'll give several different kingdoms some time to shine today, and again, engage in some tactics. Here, this battle is taking an exorbitant amount of time. In fact, we'll probably do quite a bit of editing for this, but I did want a baseline for this series. For all of these examples, we will be outnumbered by at least 20%. And yeah, finally they are being destroyed here. You could see they didn't even get close to a 1-to-1 KDR. All right, so we will take the helm here from that disastrous AI and try this again. Now, what we're looking for in this first example is a ridge to defend, and I believe there's one right here. This is going to work beautifully. I'm going to give 2 demonstrations of terrain tactics today. There are other terrain tactics you can use with infantry, such as bottlenecks and stuff like that. I want to give you terrain tactics that work on a large variety of landscapes, and this is one of them. This first example, we're going to do what I call a peekaboo rush. Some of you guys have heard me say a peekaboo ridge defense. That is equivalent to the military tactic known as the reverse slope decline defense. It's basically where you prevent the enemy from coming over the ridge and shoot them with archers. Of course, we don't have any archers here, and we have very few skirmishers in this Imperial army because they're only skirmishers, they're tier 3. Here, what we're going to do is use this ridge here and prevent their army from coming to full bear on our army. Meanwhile, we will have skirmishers throwing it into their infantry's face, throwing javelins into their face, and holding that ridge, preventing a lot of their archers and cavalry from really impacting the battle. Now, the 6th Corps is those weak skirmishers for the Imperials. It's tier 3. They're not terrible, but they're just not great skirmishers. There's much better skirmishers, as we'll show you with the Battanians and with the Aserai. Now, I want 2 defensive lines. I want a primary defensive line in the 1st Corps with shields. That way those guys have protection from ranged weapons and also charging cavalry. The 2nd Corps guarding our flank down there, and then 2 shock divisions. The 3rd and the 5th, those are two-handed weapon Manavliatons. They will defend the flanks. I'm expecting cavalry on our right flank here. Of course, our left flank is covered by this giant mountain. I think we'll be fine. And as you can see, we're outnumbered by about 25%. Let's see if this battle should go a lot quicker than that disastrous AI battle, mostly because we're not going to move a whole lot, right? We're already in a strong fixed position here, and we're going to wait for the enemy to come up to us. We'll be talking about formations a little bit in today's episode, but for the most part, line formation or shield wall are the two primary formations I will use. We will use a square at times, but I want my shock troops in line. That way they're not so close they can't swing their polearm. And I want my shield guys, of course, in a shield wall. That way they're defending themselves well against spears, projectiles, and enemy infantry attacks, right? You want those infantrymen tight. That way they can swing their maces right next to each other and do good work that way. Of course, we want our shock troops behind them. That way those guys come in when there's gaps in the infantry and wail away, and they will also obviously be protected because there's a big line of shield infantry in front of them. In the back there, the shields, that's the 6th Corps, right? Those guys will just hang out back there. All right, so Peekaboo rush. The enemy's starting to come over to the ridge, so we'll open fire here with our skirmishers. We don't have very many, and they're not very good skirmishers. But the key to this strategy is just wait. We're just going to wait for the enemy to come to this side, and once they charge, we charge. The reason we're doing that is we don't want to charge over the ridge. They have archers over there, they have many more infantry, and they have cavalry. We want them to essentially come to us and make it so that most of their archers can't participate in the early stages here. We'll just have to spread this line out even longer. They're starting to sneak in over here. Now these shock troops here, we're going to charge with them, but we don't want to do it quite yet. When the enemy gets more vulnerable and they charge, now it's our turn to charge, right? 2nd Division can be told to charge. Both shock troop divisions can be told to charge. And this 6th Corps, we're going to just try to bring up on the enemy's right. That way they can fling javelins in there. Now, you notice the infantry is sort of stacked up on that hill, and they're visible to our skirmishers. So our skirmishers can throw weapons, throw javelins, and they can advance as well. And they're at the back of the formation, which is another critical part, right? You really do want your weakest units at the back. That way, they're not getting pulverized by high-end Valandian units. I think I mentioned it, but just to reiterate it, all of the units on the battlefield in all of these custom battles will be tier 3 and above. We're not going to be out here with recruits. There's not much tactics with recruits, right? They're just a dude with a sickle. It's just not beneficial for you guys to see that. So we'll do tier 3 and above, and that also makes the armies equal quality. In other words, the Valandians have probably 250 tier 5. We have X amount of tier 5. Now we have less because we're outnumbered, but look at their archers. These guys aren't participating. An occasional guy is shooting, but all the battle is right here at this ridge, hence the term Peekaboo rush. Now if they had lots of archers, we would slaughter their infantry and just continually chase after their archers. Once you get their archers up to the ridge here, you just continually chase them. I think we'll have an opportunity to do that. We will try this with Battanian, and we'll give them a similar situation where it's necessary for us to rush their archers. Here, since their infantry is mostly destroyed, I am going to move our 1st and 2nd Division towards the archers in a shield wall. We're doing that, of course, because these guys, I could micromanage here and pull them out of a shield wall, but I don't want to show these overly micromanaged because then it's difficult for a lot of players to perform them. Now that is really bad. Our troops literally ran the other way when I did F1, F3. That's the worst possible thing they could have done, but that is the AI, right? That's kind of the AI in a nutshell. Very frequently, it will do the worst possible thing. In fact, look at these guys. I guess I'm going to have to go retrieve these guys. They're chasing, I bet they're chasing routers off the battle screen. And this is one of the many examples where it's necessary. If you want to be a successful Bannerlord commander, you must be able to micromanage. Without those guys, we're going to have a hard time winning, right? I've got shield infantry moving up, but I need those 200 infantry to bore down on these Valandians. Now, we're going to win this no matter what. I could probably F1, F3 at this stage, and we would win. But all I'm doing here is dragging all those infantry, follow me, and now shock troops in front, and this battle should be wrapped up pretty quickly. I'm not going to fight a huge amount in these just because it might unbalance things. This is absolutely one of the best custom battle heroes. She's got a savage glaive and evidently enough skill to do major damage with it. She also does quite a bit of, well, I was going to say quite a bit of trample damage, as she does 1, 2, never mind. All right, so their crossbow did some damage as we moved in for the kill here, but now it's all over. So this is a battle the AI got destroyed. They did not obtain a 1-to-1 KDR. In fact, I think they had 200 more deaths than kills, and here we have almost half of our troops left, simply using terrain and tactics. All right, so let's give Battanian a shot here now. All right, we are loaded up with Battania. Most of the fellas on the channel know that I love Battania, and the main reason is they have skirmishers. Their skirmishers, a lot of them have 6 to 10 javelins, and it makes them essentially light archers. If you're going to play an all-infantry campaign, I don't know why you would have no javelins. Unless you just like sitting, you like the feeling of sitting in a huge mass of troops, you feel that safety or something like that. To me, that's amazingly boring. So we won't be passing on javelins here. Now, this ridge is perfect. We're going to have to, I guess we can just position our troops over here. I was about to say we're going to have to run over there. I don't think we need to run over there. We can just position our troops. Now, we will fight Valandia again. Of course, Valandia, their sharpshooters are quite capable at melee. So you need to consider what kind of archers you're chasing after with your infantry. There are certain circumstances where you want to actually be more defensive. In this case, we're going to have to do a Peekaboo Ridge and then a Peekaboo Rush, simply because of the nature of that many crossbow. Now, you don't have to use this many divisions, but I say it all the time on the channel. If you use 3 divisions and I use 6, I will have better results than you. That's just the simple nature of it. The only reason you won't want to use 6 divisions over 3 or 4 is if you can't keep track of your units. It's very, very important that if you're going to be micromanaging, you know what everybody's doing at all the time. If you don't have that skill, then play with 3 units. But I would recommend you work on increasing that. I talk about it all the time on the channel. Start with 4, start with 5, then move to 6 once you're comfortable with 6, 7, 8, etc. The Guinness Book of World Records for jugglers is like 11 balls. I assure you, he didn't just wake up and start juggling and do 11 balls, right? He did 5, he did 7, he did 8, etc. Now, what I want here is I want 2 javelin divisions, and Battanians are actually kind of hard to separate because they have a lot of units with throwing weapons. So you can't just select a division with throwing weapons and expect it to be skirmishers. There will be guys in there with throwing axes, but one of the things you can do is you can say shield with throwing weapons, and that will get rid of your shock troops from those divisions. Here I have 3 divisions, 2 shock troop divisions, and obviously, well, I was going to say obviously, 2 javelin divisions, 2 shock troop divisions, and then 2 defensive divisions that will simply hold the line here. Now, this line of sight is so key. The enemy has to come over this to see us. Right? This is a very distinct advantage of the terrain. Here, I'm just borrowing another infantry division to basically shove a shield towards that cav division. They are flanking pretty hard there with the cav division, and I don't need a whole bunch of banner knights blowing up our flank. Now, infantry in every single Peekaboo Ridge, Peekaboo Rush needs to be near the top where the enemy is going to come over, but not over the top. In other words, if their crossbow can shoot you, if you're getting hit with javelins, they're too far over the ridge, right? You need to make sure those guys are near the top, and I will be micromanaging this. In fact, I think I'll be a little sloppy here. We'll see if we can't get a few guys killed, and then we'll pull them back just to sort of show you the differences. You know, Shock Troop 3rd and 5th Division, those guys are close to the top, but they're behind the shields, just like the previous battle. And skirmishers, I've got 2 skirmisher divisions, and one of them ostensibly is a better skirmisher division. Now, you can see what happens, by the way, you go over that ridge, right? I was there for 2 seconds, and 800,000 javelin, or 800,000 crossbow bolts were hitting me. Now, I think I put these guys too close. I hear them getting shot. If they're getting hit, even on their shields, pull them back. That means they're too close, right? They will eventually, I was just going to say, they will eventually die and slide down the hill like a bitch. You got to make sure that they're not visible. The whole idea here is make the enemy come to you. If their archers or crossbow can shoot you without going over the ridge, they're not coming towards you. They'll just kill all your troops at range, or kill whatever troops at range they can see, and then you'll be at a disadvantage. Now, they're starting to come up to the edge here. I forgot to mention we were holding fire with their skirmishers, right? That's something that's vital. You have to micromanage that, otherwise they will throw 800 javelins at 6 guys. At least here there's like 30 guys for them to hit. And even though it's archers versus javelins, we're winning, right? These guys are just getting drilled with javelins, and they don't have enough archers with line of sight to win that confrontation. Now, the rush is imminent here, right? The enemy is going to start piling over this ridge, and when that happens, just like the previous battle, we want to charge. You see their main infantry block moving up. We want to jam it at the top. Okay, their cavalry charge, we charge. Anytime all their cavalry charge in here, automatic charge. You want all of your infantry wailing away, In fact, they just launched into an all-out assault. That's good, right? Our skirmishers are back. You can see the javelins flinging. Shock troops are going completely nuts on our side here. And we have those infantry divisions at the top of the ridge just holding the line. We don't want them rushing over, but neither do we want them pulling back. We want them limiting how many archers can shoot. Now, more archers can shoot than I want. You see all those Fiend champs at the top? That's suboptimal. And in fact, that's even more suboptimal. Your own character getting drilled. Now we can just charge with everybody because we want every single unit pressing in against the enemy to make sure that not more of their archers get over that ridge. It's messy, but I like the death spam. I'm seeing huge flushes of green. A lot of their archers can't shoot. A lot of their archers definitely are on the other side of the ridge still. They have a handful of Fiend champs right at the top here, but they're also being drilled by javelins. In fact, I'm drilling them. The death spam looks good. Now comes the Peekaboo rush, right? We need to maintain the momentum and get to the other side, but we're going to suffer losses here, right? That's just all there is to it. Although, based on the angle they're shooting, it actually looks like a lot of their archers are back a ways. All right, so if that's the case, don't charge over. Remember, they attacked us in these scenarios. That means the enemy must come to us. That's, of course, a critical distinction. There's just a horse here for me to ride. Thanks. Shit, they are flanking us. We're going to have to adjust. Of course, my units got fucked up and my character got killed, so we're going to have to divide some of these units into other divisions. One division is just highly unacceptable for tactics. You just can't do anything. You can charge, you can fall back, but obviously there's no tactics, none. So they've got a good angle on us there. I've given them a shield wall to eat, and we're going to break off one more division. We're going to have to basically get offensive here because they have about 60 to 80 archers down there with line of sight, and we're kind of pinched here, right? When you're defending a ridge like this and they approach you from the side, you have to change your tactics. If a human player did, in fact, this is similar to what a human player would do. I'll show you how we're going to adjust. Just like the previous battle, right? We're going to form shield walls, and this is where Battanian's strength comes into play here. Their wildlings have some of the best athletics in the game. That means they close very, very well. They're not great infantry, at least as far as slugging it out, but they're very fast. And that's going to be important here because we have to close. It's worth noting, of course, that Battania has some of the most arrows in the game for their archers. Even their low tier have 2 quivers, so we're just not going to be able to stand here and absorb arrows for half an hour. I was kind of hoping that they got stupid and came over the ridge on this side, but it's not going to happen. The AI is actually playing pretty similar to how a human opponent would play. If they're in a good position, don't change it. Right? So we're going to be forced to adapt here. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to pull all their units way up the ridge here. That way, when we sweep around, we're running downhill. And they're starting to come up to that ridge. Of course, they'll be running downhill as well. That's just part of it. I'd rather not run uphill into enemies that are running downhill. We'll give them one division in a shield wall, and then we're going to move 2 other divisions in behind that shield wall. I got to swallow up this left side too. There's going to be serious losses here. At this stage, we're obviously at an enormous advantage, right? You got units that have good defensive position with ranged weapons, and we have no ranged weapons left. And you can tell from the death span, right? We are being slowly skewered. In fact, it shows the incredible power of the Fiend champs. Now, this division on this side is in better shape because there are lower level units over here. It's the other side I'm really worried about. We will pursue and see what that looks like over there. Yeah, they're spreading out very, very well. At this stage, once you charge and you've committed, don't stop. Keep your units charging. There's a nice batch of them that have closed on our left flank. Those guys are boring in. They'll be killing some people. Killing some Fiend champs. Now we just got to push in on the main core of them. We've got the second coming down on this flank, and at this stage we have crimped them. We've caught them between our 2 different infantry lines. Of course, they should be either charging or shooting. This is just an AI fault. The AI should be aggressively boring in on us and just pretend like they have shock troops, but the AI rarely does the best thing. In fact, here I charged and they ran the wrong direction. Again, this is why you need micromanagement. If you've ever lost battles in Bannerlord that you don't understand what happened, something like that probably happened, where your units did something totally asinine because, frankly, the AI is not good. That second division's getting kind of torn up down here, but the top is looking good. Skirmishers are moving in now, and this battle is over. We'll play this out here just so that we can get a good baseline for this battle. But despite the fact that we're up against all these Fiend champs and the AI actually did some decent maneuvering there at the end, victory is still ours. So outnumbered 20% with no archers against Fiend champs and out of the way, our army is still successful. All right, these were longer. These two examples took a lot longer than I expected, so we will blaze through a couple of the scenarios here, and we will try. I want to show you the Aserai infantry. All right, we are reloaded. We have Aserai infantry. We are outnumbered by 20%, and let's give Valandia a mixed army, kind of similar to what we just fought, only we're going to fight them in the open field, right? No Peekaboo Ridge, no Peekaboo Rush, just good old-fashioned infantry tactics. Now, I've been developing a couple little infantry tactics that I think will work for this series, and we're going to try to put them into play here. A single flanking line, the 6th. We will use a distractionary square on the far end, and in many ways, this is emulating some of the tactics that have been used throughout both medieval history and more modern history with leaders like Frederick the Great. We're basically going to roll the flank hard here from right to left. We've got skirmishers. The 4th Division is going to be basically a defensive, distractionary block out in front because they have cavalry and archers. And the 1st and 2nd are going to be our primary infantry divisions in the center. Of course, they're going to do most of the killing. We want our shock troops here for the Aserai behind a line of shields. You don't want your shock troops out front, of course, because they will get destroyed by arrows. Now, I've got a lot of shock troops here. That's because half of the units on the battlefield right now, if you just use the Aserai in the same manner, tier 3, 4, 5, they will be shock troops. That's why we have literally 300 and something shock troops. We need to protect these guys, right? I've got to have enough shields out in front here. We're going to have to steal a little bit here from these other divisions to make sure that this 1st division is protected. Now, the tactic we're going to be performing here is very similar to a tactic called Oblique Order, right? You guys may have heard of the Oblique Order. It was like Ephemera or something like that fucking 2,200 years ago. More recently, Frederick the Great used this in a critical battle in the Silesian Wars. This 6th Corps here is going to help us overload our right flank. The idea of an oblique order is essentially drawing the enemy towards the middle, then offsetting your units as they move in, so that one of your sides essentially is heavier weighted than the other sides, holding with your other flanks, and then overwhelming the enemy on the side you have more units. Of course, that's this side over here. We have this 4th Division. These guys here are our weakest infantry, but they have shields. So I'm just going to send them forward. We salute those who are about to die. These guys here are basically going to be told to absorb the crossbow bolts from the enemy. The enemy generally will attack with crossbow your closest unit, right? The closest unit to them, and that's exactly what's happening. They are playing right into our hands here. Just like Napoleon at the Battle of Austerlitz, the enemy's basically doing exactly what we want here. Now, no idea why their shock troops are running up here, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. It's like 30 guys. This 6th Corps moves in, but a vital thing here. We just told them to start throwing javelins. I'm not going to engage with them until the enemy engages us. I don't want the enemy to switch their attention to them. At the far end there, we've got a square, and then the line in the center is basically going to hold things down while we move in here with the 6th. I say it's like an oblique order because this is much more of just a straight flank turn. The main division's charge. Our 6th Corps here is moving in the whole time, firing javelins, and now these guys were just going to basically throw their whole weight of forces right into the flank of the enemy. We're trying to hold that left side and charge in here with the right. Now that they're close, of course, they get told to charge. Now their crossbow's not doing a lot because it's still busy shooting and attacking that square. You can call that AI exploiting, so be it. It is what it is, right? You're playing the AI in Bannerlord. You can always just do some other kind of tactic where you're not exploiting, quote-unquote exploiting, you're welcome to do so. I'm just giving you tools for your tactical toolbox that you can use. Now you can see our Oblique order is working. Over here on the right, these guys are absolutely eating the Valandian line as the rest of our units hold out, and this battle is over. You can just see that line coming down like a fat guy at a movie theater eating the Twizzlers. It's over, right? All those Twizzlers are gone. There's nothing left now except indigestion. I was going to say killing their archers, but their archers routed. We're outnumbered here by 20% against a mixed army, and we didn't just win. We obliterated them with this nasty Aserai infantry. And this is part of the reason it's my favorite infantry division. Their shock troops are nasty, but their tier 5 infantry, their veteran infantry is out fucking standing. I've done whole episodes on it. They are just outstanding. All right, basically a 2-to-1 kill KDR, despite the fact that we're outnumbered. All right, let's go ahead and do some Battanian in a similar situation here. What we're going to do is basically give them an enormous amount of infantry only and see if we can overcome that. All right, there we go. 1,000 Battanians, and just like our army, tier 3 and above, it's not like we have some kind of advantage in strength in numbers. So tier 3 Battanians, and we're outnumbered by like 50% here. Can we win with this Aserai force, right? This is very audacious. And we're going to use the almost identical tactic, right? We're going to try to roll up our right side. It might be the left side. It kind of depends on the angles. I want to have a hill leading down to the enemy, wherever I'm flanking from. 2 reasons. First, they're throwing javelins in the air. They throw further downhill. They do more damage. Second, they're running towards the enemy downhill. They run faster. That means they close faster. And there's an inertia system in Bannerlord. Running downhill, charging, and attacking your enemy, you do more damage than going uphill. All right, so all this should look the same if you watch that first battle. If you were doing your homework, we've got a small little square there, the 3rd Division. We could make it a little bit bigger, but let's just try a smaller one. I'm still refining these tactics, right? These tactics are by no means perfect, but I think, as you've already seen, they're highly effective. If we can win this, I'm not going to say the tactics are perfect, but they're outstanding, right? If we can win outnumbered 50% here, that'll say a lot. All right, let's get that 6th pushed way off to our right side again. You want to make sure that that unit does not charge. If those guys charge or they're out in front and the enemy attacks them, you're fucked. All your strategy is fucked. So you want to basically make sure that your flanking division is, I'm trying to think of the best word for it, is not suspicious, right? They're not suspiciously sitting out there like an obvious trap. You want to make sure that they're just a little bit inconspicuous up in the trees. We're just minding our, we're just harmless travelers here. We'll imitate the looters, right? When the looters attack you, or when you attack a looter, all of a sudden, they're harmless travelers. And look at the Fiend Champs, right? Or not Fiend Champs. Look at the Battanians with their throwing weapons, right? They're unloading, but we've got lines of shields in the front, and many of those things are just finding a shield instead of flesh. Here comes their main body of troops. Again, we're not charging with it. I'm just shoving that square a little closer down there. We wait for them to charge. Our 6th Corps is now boring in almost behind the enemy because the enemy is moving so fast. Now that they charge, we charge. Right? We basically want them to commit. Now, they actually did a smart thing here. They broke off about 50 troops to confront our flank down there. The square might be a little bit too far away there, but I think this is still going to work. Look at how many guys are flanking the enemy. In fact, our flanking effort might have been a little overzealous here, but in they go, right? And as long as that center can hold, this is why Frederick the Great was successful. This is why other Roman and military leaders throughout history were successful, because they had a plan and executed it well. I was going to say, they had a plan and it worked. Yeah, that's a good reason too, right? They had a plan. If you have a plan and it doesn't work, it's called going back to the drawing board. Now, that's another thing too I'll mention here. If you want your infantry to close in a hurry and they have throwing weapons, tell them to hold fire, right? Just have those guys, after they've thrown a few javelins, I actually want that line going crazy on our right. That way they bore in and do as much damage as possible, right? I need them to hurry up and kill, because the center will break eventually. In fact, the center is starting to break. Actually, never mind. They're just chasing the enemy. The enemy broke. Wow, and what destruction here, right? We're outnumbered by 50% and we demolished the enemy here, right? There's your infantry tactics for you. I won't say it's perfect, but that's a pretty damn good result. All right, fellas, like normal, please subscribe if you want to see more. Hit that like button. Appreciate you guys, and I will see you friends next time.